In a long time, this was the first movie that made me cry again. Besides of course the departure of Frodo in the end of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, where I always have tears in my eyes. I can't point my finger on what exactly moved me so deeply, but I think it was the brilliant and realistic depiction of a whole life and the end of it. If you want to watch the movie, better watch it before this video or skip the summary part. The plot follows the orphan Andreas Egger, who gets raised by his adoptive father, who abuses him physically and only sees him as cheap labor. After years of working on the farm of his adoptive father, he begins to work on a construction site for a cable car company. With his well-deserved money, he buys himself his own proper cabin in the mountains. In the inn of a little farmer village in the valley, he gets to know his love interest Marie. With time, they become a couple, he proposes to her and they live together in his cabin. On a fateful winter night, his home and fiancé get buried under an avalanche, which he only barely survives. He is devastated and has to recover in the inn of which the owner has become his friend. After he recovered, he gets inducted as a soldier into the Second World War. He survives the war after being held captive by the Russians for 6 years. As he gets old, he never finds back to the life he had before. The little farmer village transformed into a touristic destination and the world had many technological advances, but he lives a simple life in solitude, always thinking of his first and only love, Marie. In the end, he looks back positively on his past life, happy that his life was as it was. The man behind this fantastic movie is the German-Austrian director Hans Steinbichler. After I watched A Whole Life, I had to inform myself if it is based on a real story and if Andreas Egger really existed. And no, he didn't. The movie is based on a best-selling book from Robert Seethaler. By the way, we both know that you, yes you, should read more. Because I had to inform myself if the film was based on a true story. We all know, yes, shame on me, I didn't read or even knew the book beforehand, so I can only give my opinion about the movie. But I have to tell you, this movie is the peak of what the German movie industry has produced in years. Besides the fantastic camera work and the beautiful landscape scenery, this film has important messages embedded in it that makes it worth watching. I think in today's time of overconsumption and fast-paced lifestyles, it shows us an alternative way of living through depicting the way of life we humans had before the whole industrialization. The movie shows a depiction of a kind of man which is sadly not often seen anymore in today's movie landscape. Andreas is a man who doesn't give up and keeps going no matter how hard it is. He works for the things he wants and all he creates or buys comes from the effort he has put into it. Through the example of his life, you can see that hard work pays off. He is patient and humble, doesn't force anything into his life but adapts to the situations he has no control over. What I want to say is that with a strong mind and support from your friends when you need it, it is possible to live through the hardships of life, which I find this movie depicts very well. Watching the movie, I found it funny to see how the people back then reacted or evaluated the things that nowadays are absolutely normal for us. In a time of CGI overuse and always referencing to political or environmental issues of real life, I'm very glad that there are still directors out there who know how to make movies which let you dive into a different world and let you forget about real life for a few hours. The movie works well with an absolute minimalistic use of CGI, which by the way is how CGI should be used, as an addition to practical effects and not as a replacement. I heard some critics say that the age of Andreas is not portrayed correctly because it is the same actor for over 30 years of the fictional character's life, but I really wasn't bothered by that. I rooted for the guy. It is always difficult to adapt a movie in a way that satisfies the whole community. Same here. But as someone who didn't read the book, but I will in the future, I really enjoyed watching this piece of art. So if you want to spend your evening wisely, watch A Whole Life, because it is really worth it. Bye bye.